Good now, revolutionaries, and welcome back to the Rise Up Morning Show.
The Rise Up Morning Show.
It's your place for helpful news, commentary, answers to your crypto questions, and wizardry. If our wardrobes are any indication. I am joined today by Gandalf the Gray. I am your co-host, Radagast the Brown, and we're delighted to be with you this fine Wednesday morning.
Vela says, "Why did they let you out of prison, Evan?"
Why did they let me? Oh man, they.
I don't get
you know.
I don't get that vibe. I do absolutely get Radagast the Brown vibes from Evan, especially like the deeper into cold season we get, the more wizard-like Evan gets.
Yeah, and sometimes there's a little bird poop on my shoulder, or a twig in my hair. That's just how it goes. Although Alex, I don't know that you're. I called you Gandalf the Grey. I don't know the full Wizarding Council except Radagast, Saruman, and Gandalf. I would need to refresh myself on. I know there are many other of their brethren who have other colors, and I feel like you might be more aligned with, I don't know, Ironium the Pewter, or I don't know, or maybe the Dark One himself. I don't think Sauron. He was above that council. I know, beyond it. He was he was one of the early ones or something. Anyway,
no. And
show
plus,
people
if we go full nerd and I got to pick something, it would not be one of them. It would be one of the Dunedain, for sure.
And I can't remember. I remember the word, but I don't remember who they are. So let me see though, Mr.
Aragorn.
Oh, okay. Let me see, Mr. Ranger, what you're working with here. Show everybody this fit.
Dude, it's the full.
Yeah.
It's the full. So you wake up and it's freezing okay, don't come for me. I'm from Georgia. It's Georgia cold outside. It's Georgia cold outside, and I got to take the dogs out. Is it a dress? Not quite. It is basically a Snuggie, yes, except it's the off-brand budget version.
It looks like you're cosplaying as one of those squirrels who can fly. It's kind of what it looks like, complete with a marsupial pouch.
Yes. Am I wearing a Snuggie? Basically, yes.
Hey man, I'm glad to be here with you. Will is taking the morning off. He's doing his quote unquote real job, but he will be back tonight to join us for After Dark, where we will also be joined by our friend Nathan, aka DeFi Daddy. He's indicated that he wants to talk about some tokens in the Hype, as in Hyperliquid ecosystem. He specifically mentioned one called DPIN. He talked about some other tokens called Sonic. And what was the other one he told me about? And and Anon. And is of course excited to give his take on a couple of the AI agent tokens related to that trend and going through the whole thesis. So please be sure to come back and join us for that tonight. It's going to be 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're streaming on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. We're everywhere you might want to be. All that's missing is you. And hey, while I'm thinking about it, take a look at the links I'm about to put on the screen, because if you're just seeing us for the first time or you haven't done it yet, we would love for you to join the free Discord community. I'm going to pick on you about it all show. It is the place where our show lives 24/7. It's got helpful links. It's got conversations with learners at all levels of experience. It's an awesome place to ask your crypto question when you can't get a hold of us. Honestly, if you want to ask us a question, that's the best place. But most of the time, we aren't the very first to answer. Somebody is there all the time ready to talk to you. Usually they're super helpful, and it's all that's missing is you. So Alex, I kind of wanted to go back to the conversation we were just having, which is before we got on today, you were talking about just how important it might be for us to be really mindful of folks like the learners in our audience who are not just interested in crypto specifically, but are interested in financial literacy, in wealth building, even though we're not traditional financial experts the way your uncle is. How important it might be for us to involve people who are seeking that information in our conversations so that they don't have to hear something that's unrealistic or unhelpful advice. You want to talk more about it?
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, it goes without saying, to that, we are not financial experts. We're not advisors. We're not, I don't have a degree in finance. I do recognize that that kind of education is important. And if I am good at one thing, it is figuring stuff out. So, if we don't know the answer to something and there's a question that you would like to work through or something that you're just curious about, struggling with, whatever, just ask. If we don't know the answer, we know somebody who does, and we're pretty good at sourcing information. So that's kind of my strong suit there. But no, really, it's just the more like research I do into all of this, the more reading and time I spend thinking about, the best ways to make content about setting yourself up for success in the future. And the more, like I said, the more research I do to make sure that the information I'm sharing there is as accurate as possible. You just realize, like, man, none of this content is made for anybody in like any situation other than a 20-year-old guy who's very willing and able to like eat nothing but ramen and live with 9 friends.
Yeah.
But the second you're not that 20-year-old kid with a risk tolerances in the stratosphere and, no huge financial responsibilities or whatever, you just kind of feel left out. And that sucks.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
A lot of people in a lot of other situations are not doing the greatest.
No. And it's up to all of us to tell a better story. You mentioned specifically, we love to listen to Alex Hormozy or Chris Do, but if you're not a 7-figure designer, or like you said, a hungry, broke college student who can live in their car for a minute while they reduce their spending, like that's not exactly plausible for a mom. Well, or somebody who's just trying to de-risk a little more, or protect what they've accumulated. You made the example of your parents. They're about to retire. They don't need to be degenning.
Yeah, and maybe my like, why is my mom involved in cryptocurrency? Because she wants to learn a new skill. She wants to add something new to the balance sheet and experiment a little bit, but is not doing a huge percentage. Is really only paying attention to a few specific assets in the Web3 space. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff in between. Like, for some people, honestly, it makes perfect sense to throw a couple darts at the wall and like risk some money on something that's higher potential return, but much more, much higher risk as well. So I think really like the goal is just to try to cover more bases and share information that is applicable to more and more people, instead of just continuing to drill down on like the same shit over and over and over again. Statistics about education, about finance are appalling. Statistics about people's financial situations are appalling. If you've seen any of those, there's a lot more money content on TikTok right now, and I'm kind of here for the money talk 2025 trend. But the little visual representation of wealth inequality with the pie, like, hey, here's a full pie that represents all the money in the US divided up accordingly into like these categories. And no one was even close to getting it right, because like 80% of the pie is on the first plate. And there's literally like negative pie on the last plate because the average person is 100 grand in debt. So it's like, that's the kind of stuff that's been irking me lately. And that video that I posted the other day just got like, at this point, 800 plus DMs off of it. And most of those are like, hey, I'm from country whatever. Do I have any options? Like, things aren't going great. And I'm like, well, first of all, fuck. I'm not the expert for this, but I can figure it out.
Well, and I know that we have... Oh, go ahead.
No, and that's it. The only other big warning, as people are joining the Discord, please just turn off your DMs, or just ignore them.
My God, yeah. Turn off your DMs. Anybody who messages you that looks like us, it's not us. We are never going to message you first. These are our only profiles. The official links section of the Discord has our official profiles. You can find us any number of ways by asking members in public places. We're there all the time, but we are never, ever, ever going to message you first, especially not to ask you how your trades are going or to offer you some kind of investment opportunity. But there are people who will try to scam you that way. So watch out. And we, the last thing I was going to say about it is just, we really have, I will say my favorite thing about our audience and our community is that we really do have all those kinds of people. We got in the comments a working nurse. We have parents. We have grandparents. We got Gen X, Y, Z, A, millennials like us. We're really picking up across the political spectrum, across the world, all kinds of people that are standing together who might not otherwise identify as like, I'm with you, I'm on your team, because they want to learn this stuff.
We
and
are
that's
literally
so
all
cool.
on the same team. And
We are, yeah. Newsflash.
People love to bumper sticker that shit about, like, oh, we're all on the same side. It's all about unity, whatever. And then they keep doing divisive shit. So, I don't know. I guess I'm just I'm done pulling punches. We're all on the same fucking team. All right. So it's fine.
Yeah.
Disagree on whatever you want, but we can all agree that, we probably wish that we were in a little bit better financial situation. So let's work on that.
That's what Rising Up's all about, baby. So I do see a couple of crypto questions coming in, like one you responded to there about, is it too late to get in to crypto this cycle? And also a couple comments about the uncertainty of, Bitcoin and other assets right now in the next couple of days. So where do you want to take that, Alex? Let's do it.
So I was hoping to, have we'll get Will's breakdown tonight, but I know a little bit about what he would be covering. So let's hit just a couple things. So we got some economic data yesterday, and it was overall better than expected. Like the metrics, there was a jobless claims, a couple others. People who are better at data, help me out in the chat here. But we got some numbers. Long story short, they were better than expected, which led to a market downturn in the stock market because we are now feeling more confident pricing in that the Fed will not be cutting rates as much as originally planned this year, which is just sort of a news event that will cause a downturn in markets. So totally expected right now based on kind of what we're seeing and the data that we got yesterday. And if we continue to get good economic data and the Fed feels better and better about where things are, it's more and more and more likely that they will, be sticking to that reduction in rate cuts this year, which would then in turn give us some short-term volatility, probably to the downside. Plus, like we said, as we started to return yesterday and when we pumped back up again over 100,000, went back to 102, we're kind of ranging there. It makes perfect sense that people who are feeling like, okay, maybe this isn't what I signed up for. You've got people getting shaken out of markets there, which causes some sell pressure, which leaves. You've also got manipulation efforts from the big players that want more and more and more and more and are unhappy with how quickly things went up and things rose. So there's that too. Always there's that.
And you know what else, Alex, too? The other thing is I just saw this, that bond yields are extra high right now. We saw a lot of people moving away from Bitcoin ETFs, which have had really strong flows, Ethereum ETFs. And now they're flopping over to bonds. People who want to buy the ETFs, et cetera, are cool with their money being parked here until they're not. Like, they don't have as much ability to just move back and forth as us. But it looks like that might have contributed to some of it too, that Bitcoin ETF inflows fell to 52.9 million from over 900 million. So
quick, just quick correction. Alan, I see your comment in the chat about hearing that. So wrong. Kevin said, I heard that Kevin O'Leary could end up buying TikTok and using Polkadot. Is that what you're hearing? So what you're referring to is Kevin McCourt. Is his first name Kevin?
I don't remember what his name is, but I remember the Polkadot
McCourt
guy who's like, let's make some news headlines.
The last name of the guy is McCourt. He's he runs Project Liberty, billionaire from the East Coast, and it's not the Shark Tank dude. Kevin O'Leary cannot afford to buy TikTok, and I've never heard that talked about. Also, Kevin O'Leary has nothing to do with Polkadot. He's done some crypto dabblings and whatever, but Mr. Wonderful is not on the. Maybe he's.
It does look like he has joined, according to the people of Reddit in the Polkadot thread. He has joined Frank McCourt's People's Bid.
So that's the overall story, is that Frank McCourt is like gathering wealthy people to put in a bid. He's been working on. I actually posted a video when that announcement first happened, which was months and months and months ago, like last summer. Basically, in a nutshell, I encourage you to look into it. It's kind of interesting. But there was a plan to like move some sort of infrastructure through Project Liberty using Polkadot for something. I have not really heard much about it progressing because, in short, and if someone knows more about this than I do, please help me out. buying
Here's the
TikTok is
TLDR,
really not that
Alex.
easy.
But he has met. So O'Leary joined McCourt's People's Bid, which is like a collective effort to buy the app.
Yeah,
He met with
bunch of
Trump
millionaires.
earlier in the day yesterday at Mar-a-Lago to make a deal about it. And that's where what I have ends. There's an official announcement from Project Liberty, and we can post it in the Discord.
Well,
But
we shall see. I've also saw yesterday the good old Mark, the Zuck. Did you see that?
no, what'd
His
Zuck say?
announcement about he's removing fact checking from Meta as a platform and replacing it with community. He's doing exactly what Twitter did.
Oh my God. Why?
How original, man.
Yeah, but also why? Is it working?
I don't know.
don't
I mean,
know.
it works for one thing, baiting rage and getting attention.
Yeah, that's certainly true. Okay, wait a second. though.
Rage sells. So there you go.
We've gone away from this question, which is it too late to get into the market? We touched on a little what's happening with Bitcoin is that, we're getting economic news. The stock market is changing. Bitcoin is affected by those kind of things. But what about the market? Is it too late for somebody to get in?
No, I don't think it ever is too late for someone to get in. I think that's the wrong way to look at it. Like the way that I look at it, if you look at this whole thing like a boat, we hear the phrase all the time, did you miss the boat? Did you not miss the boat? Whatever. What that does is it forces you, when you do make your entrance, to do it irresponsibly. Listen to me. It's never too late to join the market, but the point at which you join can change. So the manner in which you enter a market like this from scratch can change. So what does that mean? If we were in the deep throes of 2022 or 2023 and everything is down 80-90% from all-time high and like 6 people are talking about crypto, my dumbass is still here posting videos to 3 viewers. Me and Evan are still streaming to 5 people talking about this industry. That is when it's okay and it makes more sense to be a little bit more like risk averse. And that's when I would make personally like a bigger purchase all at once. That's when I would be like averaging in more often, like over the span of time, like as we are cratered and as we are in the bear market. I do not act the same way now. Not to say that I'm not participating, I'm just doing it differently. So if I buy something in 2022 and it goes up 8%, I don't even consider removing it from the table in the middle of that bear market, right? But now, if I make a bet on something and it flips up 10%, I'm seriously considering de-risking, because 10% in a week or a day is pretty good. And right now we are like dancing kind of on the edge of the knife. It's a little bit sketchy. We don't know exactly which direction we're going. We're not full sending, up and only. We're also not dumping into oblivion. We're kind of just like ranging and dancing here around, $90,000 to $100,000 Bitcoin. So in that sense, I just try to be aware. What is the market doing right now? How do I need to adjust the way I approach it? How does this affect my risk? How does this affect the risk of the assets I'm looking at? How does this change the way I need to look at profits? All that sort of stuff. So in a nutshell,
Very well said.
No, never too late. Just make sure that you're aware of how the markets are behaving before you get in so that you enter appropriately for whatever point in time we happen to be at.
That's very well said. And I would add what Antoine says down here. It also depends on what you want to get out of the market. I think a lot of people just buy because they get caught up in these emotions without really thinking, what is my goal for this money? Am I gambling? Am I investing? I would say there's a big difference between trading and investing. Most traders don't beat the market. And crypto markets especially are very volatile. If you're trading with leverage, you'll probably get liquidated like that, especially if you're an inexperienced trader. And I would say most people, we heard this on that Raoul Pal interview, most people who are investing in crypto, I think would probably be better served by buying Bitcoin, Ethereum, now Solana, I would put in that category, and stable coins.
That category as well, yes.
And start to do DeFi things with them with like the majority of their portfolio, 80% of their portfolio. And then if they want to play around, maybe use the other 20% for that. And from that perspective, it almost doesn't make sense to say, is Bitcoin up or down today? Did Bitcoin, because tomorrow Bitcoin's going to be 110,000 and then the next day it's going to be 90,000. But over time, it's going to outperform. Bitcoin is the best performing asset of its, since it's been here, it's been the best performing over time.
Of all time.
And looking at it day by day, trying to catch the bottom to buy more, the top to sell it as it moves is going to rob you of your time. So it's a bad investment there. And it's likely to cost you in fees. It's likely to cost you in terms of you will not outperform the market.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's going to rob your peace. All that stuff is so valuable. I buy Bitcoin every single day. I buy the same amount because I'm planning on using Bitcoin as part of my retirement. I treat it like a 401k.
I didn't forget it. Yeah, but you're not checking that price every single day and questioning whether or not you need to sell your bag and try to rebuy lower time markets that way, right?
We had a poll in our Discord the other day where somebody asked, great question, by the way, I'm digging them. How often do you check your portfolio? And the options were once a month or less than once a month, once or twice a month, once a week, a couple times or every day, and then a gazillion times a day. And I'm pretty sure the winner of the poll was a gazillion times a day. And I answered once a week. But if it was a bear market, dude, I would be like once a month or less, honestly, because I just am not doing stuff as actively.
I check the prices of the top 20 every day, literally just for the show. I don't look at any charts between Friday and Sunday because I don't care. And there's not a single thing in my portfolio that I am so concerned about that if I miss time one swing, I'm going to be screwed. You know, it's Bitcoin, it's ETH, it's Solana. I would say Avalanche is kind of like working its way into a moderate conviction asset for me. I also want to say too, like, just because I've seen a couple comments about, XRP, Chainlink, all this other stuff, you can literally be into whatever you want. And people have different ways of assessing how confident they are in asset A, B, or C. When I talk about like something that is more of a long-term thing, like I would encourage you to kind of zoom out and look at the overall picture. Bitcoin has an average annual return of about 145% when you zoom all the way out and take into consideration the entire thing, and also consider the years where it is down in bear markets, right? Average all of that into its lifetime, roughly 145%. SUI would never in a million years, for example, just to pull one out of the comments, I would never in a million years put SUI in that category. And that is not to denigrate SUI at all.
Or say that you wouldn't eventually put it in that category if it performed in a certain way.
Or to say that it wouldn't go eventually. But SUI is new and it's never seen a bear market. I believe that you would be over risking yourself.
Yeah.
To long-term try to hold that into a bear and see what happens. That's a real risk. Now, that is not to say that you can't do it. If your risk tolerance is that high and you're willing to risk it for the biscuit with that much money on something that is unproven in a bear market, knock yourself out. But I encourage you to go to DeFi Llama and look and see what happens to TVL on major ecosystems during bear markets. It completely dries up. You might think that in a bear market, everyone stakes it for the whole market and the TVL is through the roof. That's not the case. They all leave. Is that going to change in the future? Maybe. Do we have any proof of that for SUI specifically? Not at all. XRP, long-term, has been here for multiple markets, but I encourage you to zoom out and look at the way its chart looks, because it's like the ultimate pump and dump. It just looks like rocket ship all the way down. Rocket ship all the way down. And right now, rocket ship, is it going to go all the way back down again? Maybe. But like for me, I haven't seen enough of an example in XRP's history to say like I could confidently say long term, even though it's been through and survived bear markets. Ripple is a company strong as shit. RLUSD definitely going to add some oomph to the ecosystem. But that's the way that I'm looking at this kind of stuff.
Yeah, well said. And if you're one of these people, I do see a number of other follow-up questions rolling in. But I want to address some of the comments, like if you are concerned about short-term gains and exit strategy, like before you do anything, buy anything else, follow an influencer into a trade, I do think it's probably important for you to ask yourself that, what is my goal question? and assess your exit strategy. And if you don't know how to do that, I'll make another plug for the Discord to say that's a great place to have a conversation with other investors about what is your expectation for profit, when, what does the time frame like that look like for selling? Are you selling it all at once? Are you selling it in 3 or 4 sales? Get yourself a plan. And then also, as nitty gritty as, are you using limit orders to automatically sell it on something like Coinbase Advanced, KuCoin, whatever? I'm pretty sure Kraken does limit orders. You want to have a plan and then have a plan B and a plan C so that you don't have to think about it every day. You can put it to bed.
Yeah.
And Jane, you asked what solution I use to buy Bitcoin every day. I personally use river.com, like a river runs through it, river.com. But there are many that you can use that might be easier for you. I like River because there are 0 recurring fees on withdrawals and recurring buys. And I just buy it on River and then move it to my ledger once a month or so, just to minimize fees. But you can use Swan, like the bird is another one that does something similar. A lot of Bitcoiners love it. And I'm pretty sure you can set up DCAs on most exchanges, but the fees will be, a little more. I use River because I think it's the best fee setup. And I'm pretty sure it was Joe who told me about that, Alex. Our friend Joe, the guide, who is in Discord.
I'll say too, just because I've seen the comment here this morning and I've seen it before, one of the reasons that I tend to avoid talking too much about like specific cryptos, unless we're doing an altcoin review or something like that, is because inevitably people who are way too emotionally attached to something like XRP, and yes, I'm targeting you, usually misunderstand what it is that's being said if someone says something like remotely objective.
If you're in the XRP community,
come for him.
No, for real, bring it on, because you're not ready for it. I don't have any problem with XRP. Okay, I'm going to say this once and I'm not going to do it again, all for the rest of the show. I don't have a single issue with it. I feel like I've been overly communicative about how much respect I have for Ripple as a company. No one else could have weathered the SEC the way that they did. No one. Maybe the Ethereum Foundation, but you're still stretching.
Yeah. No, it would be tough for anybody else.
That doesn't mean that XRP gets to be the greatest asset of all time. Okay? And you guys are victim of more conspiracy theories than literally anything I've ever seen in my life, from the lizard people under the Denver airport to the moon landing and everything else in between. Okay? Like, I'm very sorry that you guys get taken for a ride with the most cockamamie bullshit that you can possibly imagine, because the XRP ledger works quite nicely. Things work smoothly. The network does not go down. I don't give a shit what Sage says. That guy is a fucking criminal. Dude, the live stream yesterday, did you
He was on a live stream yesterday?
Feel a disturbance in the force that took like 3 years off your life last night?
No.
Good
No.
Lord. I can't wait to help drop the hammer on that asshole. It was so bad, dude. It was the worst I've ever seen. The worst I've ever seen. Anyway, I'm ranting. The point is, I don't have any problem with XRP. All I said was, if you zoom out and look at the chart, it doesn't look like something I'm enjoying in a bear market. I'm sorry. You can do literally whatever you want. It's your money. It's a free country. Do whatever you want. I don't care. So, that live stream yesterday was just him. Like, he's decided to repump his meme coin.
Oh,
The first one. So he was basically just like sitting there with one of his cheerleaders, I guess. Some other like zero personality schlub that decided he was going to pump this meme coin for Sage. And the whole thing was basically just like, if you guys get this thing to 50 million, I'll put in another pile of money. He's just farming his people for exit liquidity. He's not making enough money with the other stuff. So he's like, hey, let's pump this thing so I can sell more of this and dump it into oblivion again. It was really, really bad. Like, straight up illegal. The whole thing was a crime.
Come for him.
Yeah. Not helpful.
Not helpful.
Not helpful. So we had another really good question that I want to address a little bit, which is, how is crypto a part of Web3, or will crypto be a part of Web3? I think it was Lydia who asked that. And I'm sorry, I may have paraphrased it a little, but just generally wanting to know if we can kind of put those pieces together. And I'll start by just saying briefly, Alex, and then I'll kick it over to you, that the internet it's one entity. It has always been the internet, but you may have heard people talk about this current moment as Web 3. So it can be helpful to talk about what is Web 2? What is Web 1? So that we're all speaking the same language, okay? When the internet became a consumer product in like the 1990s, it had already been in use by the government, by people researching at universities, and personal computers were starting to take off. But this is the era we call Web 1, where people could get on the internet and they could do pretty much anything they wanted, the way you could drive out to the middle of nowhere and have a wild party. But that was the problem. It was the middle of nowhere. There wasn't that much to do. Nobody had written a map. And unless you had some significant technical skills, you really couldn't build a lot. And even if you had a lot of skills, we didn't have like the rails, the foundation. The internet of today is like a big city. It's very built up. If you want to go to New York City and start a business, you don't have to build a highway and then launch a plumbing campaign. The infrastructure is there. Web 1, the Wild West. But it was free. It was open. We call this era the read-only era of the internet, where most people were looking at websites. Web 2 started to take off as websites became not just read-only, but gave us the permission to write information too. This is the era of MySpace, the era of eBay. Every internet startup company that you can think of made the internet a place where there was stuff to do for the first time, and they gave us the opportunity to participate, like a boom town that now has a doctor, a casino, a couple of theaters, and some businesses. People are starting to go there, and it's easy for them. They don't have to be architects and build the buildings themselves. They can just go to what Facebook or Twitter has already built and enjoy it. The problem with the read-write era that we call Web 2 is that we don't really own our information or anything else on the internet. We rely on about 5 companies who own about 90% of the internet traffic and capture all the value from us. On TikTok, Alex and I have spent a lot of time building relationships. We're doing it on YouTube, we're doing it on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. But if Elon or Zuck or the president of the United States doesn't like this platform, they can take it away from us. If they don't like our specific content, they can ban us. They can take away our followers. And if we go to another platform, we can't take those relationships with us. We don't own them. And they capture most of the value that we generate. Web 3 is the era where not only will you be able to read information, not only will you be able to write information, but you will be able to truly own that information as well. And Alex, we're entering into that era. We're already here, but can you tell us more about how blockchains, tokens, cryptocurrency fits into that ownership narrative and will unlock the next iteration of the internet as free as it was always meant to be?
Yeah, so the question is actually really deep. How is crypto used in Web3? The short answer is it doesn't have to be. And I would say that most crypto is not Web3. So first of all,
I would disagree with that.
Oh no,
I'm waiting on you to elaborate before I, get too crazy here.
Everyone make a note. Evan and I are finally. We better disagree. You better not be teasing me with a disagreement here.
I know, right? Yeah, don't tease me with a good time. Okay, here we go. Why not?
So just to recap from the top, Web 1, all you're doing on the internet is pretty much reading stuff. On Web 2, and keep in mind, Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, these are just like marketing terms to kind of summarize a chunk of time. They're not anything specific. They don't really mean anything specific. There's not like, like when you've signed up to put something on the internet, you're not like checking a box like this is going into
on Web 1.
This is going to Web 2. That's not a thing. That's not how that works. So Web 2, like Evan said, social media comes out. You start to get to put your own stuff on the internet for other people to read, but you don't own any of it. 5 companies own everything. The point of Web 3 is to expand the ownership so that we get to like control some of our data, because right now everything you put on the internet gets taken from you and sold from one billionaire to another billionaire, and then that guy advertises a bunch of crap to you, and that's how the world works. You don't get to profit share in any of the stuff, any of the value that you contribute to the internet. Someone else is making all of the money from it. You're not making any money from it, which sucks because you're very valuable. And so in answer to the question, it's not a new infrastructure. Yeah, there's new infrastructure pieces. So Web3, this blockchain world, At its core, the whole point is like data ownership. Get to own your data and control it a little bit more. What does that mean? And why is crypto involved? And this is, I think, Evan, where we might disagree.
Maybe it's a language thing too.
Maybe. We're probably going to end up.
We'll get there.
agreeing.
Take your time. Unpack it for me. I'm just rolling up my sleeves, man.
If you take crypto to its beginning, its inception, right? We're looking at the creation of Bitcoin. And one could argue that the technology that lent itself to the creation of Bitcoin and the building of a blockchain has been around for a lot longer than Bitcoin has. That's completely true. There's examples of blockchain in engineering going back several decades. It's very interesting to read all about that, by the way. I won't do a whole anthology here, but it's interesting to learn about. You get to Bitcoin, and the whole point was peer-to-peer. Okay, remove the middleman. There's no need for me to pay person X, some nameless, faceless person, a percentage of the money that I'm just trying to give to Evan when I'm perfectly capable of choosing to give Evan $20, and Evan is perfectly capable of accepting $20 from me. I don't need to pay Jim in accounting $1.50 of that to just like give me the inconvenience of it taking longer than it should to get to Evan. So that, middle people, we want to cut that out, and we want to just interact, me and you. We should be able to do something together without 17 other people in the middle. There's a lot of companies that make their entire living off of being middlemen. The reason I would say most crypto is not Web3 is because lots of people just kind of became middle people in crypto. Like, look at Kraken, Coinbase. Like, these are all fine companies and exchanges, but they are middle people. Okay, I'm paying Coinbase the exact same way that I would be paying PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, whatever, for the convenience of using their platform. They are middle people. Yes, it's true that it's a little bit elevated, that I can withdraw the asset I paid them to give me, that I paid for them to let me buy, and put it in my own wallet and own more control of it, and cut out the middle person. But most of us are still on-ramping through a middleman broker like Coinbase or Binance or KuCoin or whoever. So I would call it like Web 2.25. Are we getting the asset out of it? Yes. Are we still paying a bunch of middle people? Yes. Can Coinbase still freeze your account just because the wind blows the wrong direction today? Yes. The point of all of this is to remove the need to trust another person from the equation. You might have heard the term smart contract before. That's a very inherently Web3 idea that crypto can be involved with, but doesn't necessarily have to be. If Evan and I want to enter into an agreement, let's say Evan's going to do some work for me, and I would like to hire Evan for, $100 an hour for 5 hours worth of work. And Evan does the work, and then I'm like, you know what? No, thanks. I'm good. And now Evan's got to take me to small claims court to try to get his money out of me that I'm supposed to have paid him. That contract, while it might be legally binding, it's ultimately up to people to choose to enforce. What if Evan and I have an understanding and agreement, he does a bunch of work and I get hit by a bus? Then what? There's all sorts of ways. What if I just fall on hard times all of a sudden and I no longer feel like I want to pay Evan? Any number of things can happen. Smart contract can enforce the terms of an agreement by code. We all agree to it ahead of time, send the code, it does the thing. And Evan, I saw your face. I only say it doesn't necessarily have to involve crypto, because you could require or mandate the payout be something else. Like you could send a...
I don't think you could, because
Okay,
you couldn't
go ahead.
enforce it without crypto. But I don't want to take it over yet. I'm ready to respond, and I think it's a helpful point. But if you're not
you don't
done,
think it could be done with information or another
not information that isn't encrypted, tokenized, and
Okay.
on a blockchain ledger.
That's my fault. That's my fault.
And I would
sorry.
say that is crypto. That was where I was going to start, was to say, I think we need to define the term crypto for the purposes of our
That's fair.
argument. So
What
what
I
are you
meant-
saying when you mean crypto?
I meant money. I was talking about
ah.
specifically a transaction of like a fungible source of money. I'm paying you dollars. I'm paying you Bitcoin. I'm paying you ETH.
Yeah. No.
Instead of like this NFT will transfer, or like this deed or this document or like this song or this information,
Totally.
whatever will transfer. So that's
Totally.
fair.
I when I say crypto, and I think
Gotcha.
I get in this problem a lot in our industry. I I have to be careful about this. I haven't found a good word for this. Maybe we can come up with a new. I tend to say blockchain. I tend to say tokens, but I feel like a lot of our audience and a lot of people who are new to this don't understand what I mean when I say that. So I tend to say crypto and then clarify. I feel like it's the least amount of work for me to let people know that crypto will be so much more than money, the way your phone does so much more than calls. It will be, pieces of your identity, pieces of your story, any piece of encrypted, not just digital, but tokenized information. And let's just very quickly clear that up for folks, is crypto in my mind for this argument. So I think we agree, first of all. So damn it. But
it was close. We almost got there.
But let me go back just a little bit, because you made some really great points, and there are a lot of good comments about.
Let me hit one follow-up question that popped up before.
Is it about the intermediaries?
Yeah,
I'm going to get there.
Is it possible to buy without a middle person?
Can I back into that? Because I want to define some things for them first.
Go for it.
We talked about like it's the same internet, but the tools you use to access what I'm calling crypto are different than the tools you use to access the internet now. The internet now is accessed by like web pages, browsers, passwords. But Web3, the architecture is wallets, tokens, smart contracts, which Alex touched on, and keys. These are the things that blockchains, which is colloquially what I would say is the foundation of Web3, use. They're technical terms, but you don't have to be intimidated by them. And it all has to do, the crypto in cryptocurrency stands for cryptography. We are able to anonymously, but provably use cryptocurrency because we all have what are called private keys. The cryptocurrency, whether it's currency or information that represents my healthcare records, it doesn't physically exist. The only place it exists is as information on a ledger, a blockchain ledger, a digital public ledger that many different computers around the world keep a copy of and maintain. And this computer code that Alex talked about, the smart contract, is what updates this ledger. It's what makes it possible for me to use my private key to join the network, to send some information or write it to the blockchain, have that information associated with me, and then give permission to it over to the code. If I'm lending cryptocurrency, for example, what actually happens is not that I send Alex or whoever is borrowing it my Bitcoin. What happens is I use my private key to authorize the temporary permission to control the information that represents my Bitcoin to this computer code, this smart contract. And it then seeks out a lender or a borrower. When Alex comes in and says, I want to borrow Bitcoin, the smart contract says, I have temporary permission to reassign this Bitcoin to you. And it updates that ledger. If Alex puts up some collateral for that, he gives me his Snuggie for that, that's his collateral. The smart contract is going to monitor, does he honor his agreement? Did he die? Did something else happen that's going to cause him to be unable to repay this according to the terms I have said? And then if he does repay it, great. That information that represents the money is added to the ledger. If he doesn't repay it, the ledger updates and says the information that represents Alex's Snuggie is now ours. It doesn't require an intermediary, but all of what I just described is very technical and quite complex, especially for somebody who's new to understand, and especially when the tools to use it are kind of risky and you got to go a million places to learn them. Like Alex and I can execute an agreement like that. Most people watching this probably will have a hard time doing that. And so for now, we're at this middle point, Web 2. Whatever, where we rely on intermediaries like Coinbase, like Robinhood, to manage our private keys for us and give us an interface that looks more familiar, a username and a password, to send and receive our crypto. But this is a starting point, a new starting point. It is not the finish line. And it's why it's so important for us to learn about what this stuff is meant to be, because we cannot end the race here, or all we do is recreate the old system. Crypto is a technology. It will be so much more than money, but it is a movement. And it is about freedom. It is about autonomy. It is about removing the need to trust other people to do what they say they're going to do so that we can have truth. Back to you. I think we agree, don't we?
Annoyingly.
It's got to be blockchain, but it doesn't have to.
Yeah. No, I was laughing because how does Alex respond without moving?
I just saw that. I also saw you were talking to Christina in the comments. I'm not entirely sure what was happening, but it looked like
because
a flurry.
this is her Snuggie, and so she's realized that it's missing, and then she figured out where it
no!
was.
Wow. Well, Alex, it was nice knowing you, man.
It's okay. It's my
Sorry,
turn.
Christina.
No, yeah. So I'm trying to disagree because Evan and
I know.
don't get
I
to
am too. I'm
disagree.
trying so hard.
We don't just get to disagree or argue about much, but yeah, I think that the goal is a really good one to aspire to, to remove the middle, or at least I'll say this caveat too, to removing all middle people, changing the relationship with middle people, because one could totally argue that in a peer-to-peer action where like Evan and I are, with our own wallets, and Evan and I agree to exchange like some Bitcoin with each other for a service and pay each other that way, that miners are validating and confirming transactions, and they are earning rewards in response of us doing on-chain things. One could say that staking service, people who are staking Ethereum and providing security to the blockchain, who earn staking rewards as the blockchain works and does its thing, they're not really like middle people in the sense that I would call like, someone sitting at a desk, like pushing confirm on a thing and then collecting your payment and then processing the transaction and doing whatever, but there are other people involved. And so I think it's also important that we at least clarify, like, what do we mean by fail point or middle person?
Right. But the incentives are more aligned, like, and they're fail safe. If one of those people wants to be a bad actor, they'll be punished in a big way. And everybody else who secures the network can help us to notice if that happens. It's a lot harder to scam 10,000 people than it is to scam one person.
And of course, that that doesn't look like someone sitting at a desk working at the Ethereum validation center who is, like choosing, okay, no, I got to go to the bathroom. All of these transactions are going to have to wait. Like, it doesn't work. It's spread out to avoid that kind of problem that one might get in a more centralized, ecosystem. As you get away, so that like the question popped up about purchasing, on ramping somewhere other than Coinbase or Kraken.
Yeah.
Not that inherently there's anything wrong with them. It's just worth pointing out that they're kind of like a bank. You're paying them for a service, and they're just a Web 2 company that happens to deal with Web 3 tools. Decentralized exchanges are a thing. It can be difficult for people to get to the point where you're using the DEX, though. More often than not, you'll see someone is like buying USDC or buying Bitcoin or buying ETH or buying Solana or something like that from an exchange, and then removing it from the centralized ecosystem and taking it to a DEX, using it on Uniswap or whatever. But of course, like Evan said, it's not easy. But if Evan wanted some Sol, he could buy it from me. He doesn't have to go to the market. He and I could agree on a price, and I could sell it to him.
No, and I would agree with Sleeps, who says, like, right now it's probably not as secure as Web 2 is. And I would absolutely agree with that. I would say that we really do at this moment in time rely a lot, and I'm in favor. Like, I like Coinbase. I get that there are a lot of problems with it. The important thing is to realize it's a step on the journey. We're here largely ahead of the institutions. We have the freedom to transact, and we need to see this Snuggie again.
But that's in the very nature of being early to an industry's creation. The fact that there are risks there that are not present when something has been like around for 50 years, and all of these institutions are established, and all these tools are like, this is the thing, this is the thing, this is the thing. The farther in that gets, to quote kind of that Raoul Pal and Stephen Bartlett interview, the risk changes to the downside. It becomes less risky, but the potential rewards also change. There's a direct relationship between amount of risk and amount of potential, which I thought was an interesting conversation.
So show us the Snuggie again, so Christina doesn't beat you up, and also because we need it for the vibes. Welcome to everybody who's just joining us. If you're tuning, I can't take you seriously. Oh yeah, baby. Okay. I want to welcome everybody who's just joining us and say this is Alex's Snuggie. If you missed the first part of the episode, we're in a great conversation about what is crypto really, and his Snuggie has a lot to do with it. But you can catch the replay on YouTube in our live playlist. The YouTube channel is Faceless Labs, and you can find that and so many other resources by checking out the riseupmorningshow.com. While you're there, be sure to stop in the Discord. Do a twirl for the vibes.
Christina's yelling, Alex's Snuggie? Today it's mine.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Christina, don't embarrass me in front of my friends.
In front of my friends. I understand it now. Hey, Jordan. I want to address this question about like, okay, so how do I put this big picture thing together to make some money? We specifically had a comment like, I don't understand how, layer 0, layer 1, layer 2, this token, that token all fit into this big picture. And I think maybe that's the next step is, nobody has a crystal ball, but that's the important way to think about this stuff is like, we are building the internet as it was meant to be. And the infrastructure looks like things we call layer 0, layer 1, layer 2. And I like to think the simplest analogy is a city. Alex, feel free to, fact check me or change it. But
I like the city analogy. Go for it.
The city analogy is just that, as we said with Web 1, where it was the Wild West, we're sort of in this era now with Web 2 where we've got this city built up. And we are reconstructing new cities with the technology we have for Web 3, where the base layers, we call these networks because that's what blockchains are. They are networks, shared infrastructure that many people use. These are like cities. Layer 1s, we call them. You might have a layer 1 like Ethereum or like Bitcoin, and that is like New York or like Dallas. Every layer 1 is different. Some of them are built for corporations to use them. They might be slower, more secure, more expensive. Some of them are built for consumers to use them. They might facilitate the fast processing of payments. Some of them are highly centralized, like a city that is very secure, a company town with lots of, banks and assets, versus a place like New York City, which supports the activities of many kinds of people and businesses. The layer 2 networks will scale those cities, give them more functionality and make it easier for people to do stuff without having to go across the whole city. You might not want to transact on Ethereum the way you might not want to walk across New York because it's slow and expensive. Maybe you would choose to use a layer 2 network on top of Ethereum the way you would choose to live in a high-rise building in New York City so that
I thought you were going to say, or like take the train
or take the train or the subway. Absolutely.
Faster.
Using the infrastructure to make it faster, cheaper. I just said I like to use a high-rise building because I like the analogy that like it's contained. You might have a barber shop and a grocery store
of this whole thing. Like when you say, so you said layer 1 Ethereum. What are the big layer 2s?
Layer 2s could include network like Base, Optimism, Arbitrum, Polygon, Zora. There are many.
Glass. There's a ton.
Glass, yeah. And these are all like big buildings or like subways. They're pieces of infrastructure that make it possible for a person to park in one place and do a lot of things more quickly, more cheaply. And then there will be like apps, decentralized applications built on top of this. The way that, somebody might start a business inside a building, inside a city. But the way I want you to think about it, if you want to make money there, is instead of thinking about what would be a good business to launch in the city where we currently live, the analogy, I'm sorry, let me back up. The analogy I use for this one is a horse racing track. If you think of the whole thing as a racetrack, there are people who are here trying to pick which crypto is going to pump today. They are like the bettors who are looking at horses and it's the year 1900. And they're just having a good time at the racetrack, trying to make their money, trying to get rich quick by betting on one horse right now. Then there are people like us who work here. And some of them are like professional bettors. You know what I mean? They read the news every day. They know the jockeys personally. They are still gambling, but they're usually better at gambling than mom or pop who comes to throw $20 at a horse. And then there are people like us who work here who are building stuff. They are like the jockeys, the horses, the owners of the horses. They make money for the most part, whether or not their horse performs that day. They're not gambling. They are building. Then there are the owners of it all, the people who own the horse tracks, the race tracks. These are like the venture capitalists and, Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, the founders, the real infrastructure players, the regulators. But then Henry Ford is in the crowd. He's standing at the horse racing track and he's thinking, man, horses are so cool. But when I finally get this assembly line thing together, people are going to replace horses with automobiles and we're going to have paved roads. Hospitals will be possible because we'll have ambulances. Grocery stores will be possible because we'll have over-the-road trucking to bring potatoes from Idaho to California. Every family will have a driveway, a house, a car, and there will be cities all over connected by highways because of what I'm about to build that none of these people can see yet. But because he understands horses and because he understands people, the spectacle of it all, the infrastructure of it all, he's going to be the richest guy there. And it's not even close. So how to make money on this is by understanding the purpose of it and what it will, because of what it is, do for everyday people like us in the future. And then you're not just going to be saying, oh, I heard some influencer talk about this coin that's going to do 100x. No. When the assembly line and the automobile come along, you will recognize them because you understand what it is and what it's going to do. And then you can invest. Or you could just be Henry Ford and build it. What do you think? That's my favorite analogy, probably.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a big
of
one.
my own. My favorite analogy might be the Magic Notebook.
I do like the Magic Notebook. Yeah, no, I just, so, you know, if you're confused or whatever, I would say to, you know, not worry too much about it. You know, like it's a big topic. And I think that one of the biggest disservices that we're constantly doing is like preaching the idea, you know, too many people are selling the idea to you that like, hey, guess what? Figuring out literally everything is really easy. And all you need to do is take my course. Nothing on earth is that easy. And it takes some time. You got to like sit down and put in some effort. You know, like good teachers can make it easier to get into something or to understand why something might matter or what parts of it might not matter or what parts to be sketched out about. Like, you know, I can quickly tell you a couple things that can help you not get rugged in the meme casino if you're pulling that slot machine lever, that kind of stuff. You know, but overall, why does the industry matter? Why should you consider learning about crypto so that you can, you know, make the decision to or to not invest in these things, take that risk, whatever? It's a big question. There's a lot to it, you know, and if you don't look at historically, why do industries like this matter? Why does the advancement of technology matter? Why is this one different? You know, I like to say all the time, this is not the first time we've invented something that is technologically amazing. Yeah. And it probably won't be the last time, but this is the first time in human history that we have invented something that is, one, technologically amazing, two, has the ability to become an industry as big as anything we've ever seen before, and three, something that you can participate in the infrastructure layer of now. I've used the comparison of diamond mining before. When it became a thing that people in the world wanted diamonds and they became valuable and sought after, and people started pulling them out of the ground and we started fighting wars over getting more diamonds, you couldn't just dig in your front yard and find diamonds. But when Bitcoin was invented, you could absolutely go dig in your front yard and get Bitcoin, no matter where you were, as long as you had electricity and an internet connection. And that had never happened before. That kind of a level of access had never been available before. And that's why it's important. And then, of course, Bitcoin went on to become the greatest investment asset the world has ever seen, bar none. So, you know, there's that.
Yeah. And I want to be clear. Like, I love this comment about, you know, Evan is like the preacher on the soapbox that people are scared of. They have no idea. But we get that, like, some people, they just want to buy Bitcoin and tell your story walking, pal. It is important to have both approaches, to have the ability to make it clear. Like, you know, if you're building a boat, yeah, I could sit down and give you a blueprint and it would be boring to read, but important. Equally important is teaching you to long for the vast and endless sea. Otherwise, you're not going to get up and go to work on the boat every day. So, you know, it's a balance thing and it is big, but you don't have to learn the whole thing. You don't have to learn the whole thing all at once. What are you laughing at?
I was just thinking, because Scott, you know, leaves the comment on YouTube, making fun of people who accuse us of talking too much.
Yeah.
It always
what do you want us to do?
I'm like, it's a talk show. But then, you know what? I had a mini epiphany. You know what I realized? Most TikTok lives, Evan, if we wanted to fit in with the crowd more, we should probably spend some time just like pointing the camera at our forehead and just staring at the chat, waiting for someone to say something, and then just like breathing heavily into the microphone. So there's like so many live streams where you tune in and just like 20 seconds goes by and they're just sitting there.
Yeah. And someone goes like, and talks to their friend over here like, yeah, man.
Or just, all right, let's see. Let's wait for a few more people to get in here. Let's let's see. Let's wait. So yeah, I guess in that sense, yeah, we do talk a lot.
Yeah, we do. So
But it is a
we're,
talk show. So welcome to the app.
but it is your show too. So if you have a question for us, if we haven't seen it, please do be sure, pop it in again. Don't spam us, but don't feel bad repeating a question. We would be glad to see it again. And if you really want to make sure we answer it, why sudden ASMR? Good question. If you really want us to address it, then leave it in the Discord server. It's totally free to join. Here it is on TikTok. Here it is everywhere else. Discord.gg/rise up. That's what we're here for. So Alex, do you think? Go ahead. You pick one.
The only comment that we had in Discord this morning, as I asked the premium people what they wanted covered, was really just kind of that market sentiment overview, which we touched on in the beginning. But just to recap, I guess, where are we at? Evan, has anything about your conviction changed at all in the last 48 hours?
No.
Why not?
No. Prices are a little bit down. My conviction remains strong because nothing about the thesis of the crypto tokens I'm invested in or our space at large has changed. Do you know what's about to happen on January 20th, Alex?
Kinda.
I mean, we're going to get a new president.
Yes.
But what is this transition signal for our space? Not Trump specifically, but we're about to have, I mean, I'll go ahead and say it. I think we're about to have, doesn't matter what I think. We're about to have the most crypto friendly government in US history. Congress at every level. And I would say increasingly this is true around the world.
Yeah, and I just want to at least point out too, for objectivity's sake, that can be good, it can be bad. Like, to quote Will, maybe good, maybe
totally
shit.
Right. They will be more active, so we got to keep tabs on them.
So, but what's the downside potential? And one thing that I really hope we work on is right now, as yes, we are transitioning into a government that is more friendly towards the industry than we've ever had before. For the record, we don't need this. We've never had anything but a basically hostile government towards the industry, and look where we are, right? So just keep that in mind. Second of all, I worry, and you should all worry too, that if we make this too partisan, if you make like blockchain rights, custody rights, a right versus left conversation in the United States specifically here, what do you run the risk of? You run the risk of alienating the other side, and then if administrations flip and the other side comes back into power, you don't want them to be like, okay, well, now that I'm looking to undo all of the things that I disagree with from the last how many years, let's get rid of all of these good crypto laws and let's crater this industry and get rid of all this kind of stuff again. We want everyone to understand, like, this is a thing for everybody. It doesn't need to be partisan. And that's why I preach so hard to not look at this as right versus left to get blockchain in the picture, even though I will, of course, be the first to admit that historically, more right side politicians have been in favor of expanding the crypto and blockchain and Web3 industry in the US. Okay, you can admit that that's true while also saying that that's not the best way to do it. And that's kind of why I'm excited to bring Dennis back on in the very near future to talk about the work that he's doing. Thank you. Just because Dennis is working with everybody, and actually, as far as Washington is concerned, one of the most vocally outspoken supporters of the Web3 industry who's been doing it for ages is Ro Khanna, not known for being particularly right-wing. So there is representation on both sides, and that's who we need to be applauding, like the people who stick up for that regardless of what.
Well, and that looks like pushing for things like, the right to transact peer-to-peer, the right to self-custody, preserving decentralization in these protocols, like at a protocol level, should be something that are
right to custody, right to transact.
Those are things we should start talking about with our Congress people, our representatives, because there are companies who benefit from being the banks. As much as I love Coinbase, and as much as they step up to the bat for us, the everyday person, I am also concerned about the power that they have and would not want them to take advantage of that to, entrench their position as a custodian.
I agree.
Alex, can we actually shift away from just like the market data to answer a couple of these questions that are about the architecture that are really good? We had somebody ask if we could go a little deeper on layer 2s, and we also had just like what it is. And we also had the question about, is there any advantage to buying one Bitcoin versus buying fractions of a Bitcoin. I want to touch that one first and address another common misconception. I think there's a lot of confusion sometimes about how crypto assets, just how they work. It's a good question. Whether you own one Bitcoin or 1/10 of a million Bitcoin, and you can own, I think it is 1/10 of a million is what a Satoshi is. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's 7 zeros and then a 1 after a decimal point is the smallest unit of Bitcoin you can buy. And it doesn't matter whether you have that unit or you have one Bitcoin. If the price of Bitcoin goes up or down, the amount you have changes in value according to that. That's one of the cool things about cryptocurrency. It's like dollars and pennies. If I have a dollar or if I have a penny and the value of the dollar goes up or down, my penny or my dollar will still be, they're still worth 1 penny or $1. I can buy as much as I could before with a penny or a dollar, but the value of that currency may have changed, like to the outside world. So too with Bitcoin. Can you, because I tried to explain it last time, but I wonder if you have a clearer analogy.
Yeah. So just for the record, if you still confuse this, just, don't worry about it. We're kind of defining more of these technical terms here. I have a playlist on my page. If you click on my face and you go to my page, it's called Crypto in 60 Seconds. It's not the first playlist, but it's like the second or third. There is one that is like layer what now or something. I can't remember what the thumbnail. It's something layer. And it's just like, what the hell are all these layers? So like Evan kind of said, I'll do this in like the tiny nutshell. Layer 1 is the blockchain. That's the network itself. It's for security. It's for stability. That's what makes the thing work. Layer 2 makes it faster, better, cheaper, stronger, whatever. It improves something. It makes it more useful. And then layer 3 capitalizes on the layer 2, making the ecosystem more useful to put apps on stuff. And the easiest way that you can think about it would be if layer 1 is the Apple, like is Apple as an ecosystem, and you can build apps there. There's all sorts of tools that people use to make their apps better. And that's kind of a slightly broken analogy to put it into something that you've probably used more of. So if you hear these terms like layer whatever, they do have meaning. Layer 1 is always referring to the base ecosystem, not base. Now that's a company, I can't say that anymore. It always refers to the ecosystem. Layer 2 always refers to the thing that makes it faster and cheaper. And layer 3 always refers to the apps that someone puts on there, like a DEX or an NFT marketplace or a payment app or a game or something like that. But then you start to get into like more layers. And now we start to get into like fuzzy marketing stuff, like layer 0, you hear about that. It's also a company, but it's also a term. Like people call Polkadot or Cosmos the layer 0 or Avalanche, kinda. And I wouldn't let yourself get too confused by those. It sort of bogs down the analogy.
And you don't need to understand it necessarily to use them. I think what's important to understand is like private keys, self-custody. Maybe learn a little bit about how it works. Like we said earlier, it's a public ledger. None of it physically exists. It's kind of facilitated by these pieces of computer code called smart contracts that allow us to trust each other, even though we may not know each other, because the contract can't be bribed or fooled or forged or faked. It's verifiable. You could use GPT to look some of this stuff up. And honestly, GPT and Google can be your friend, but I want to shout out Coinbase to say coinbase.com/learn, not a sponsor of this show, absolutely should be, and is a great place to go if you can't get a hold of us and you just have, kind of 0 to 100 questions. What is crypto? What is Ethereum? How do layer 2s work? They've got it laid out in a really helpful format. And now that Mike works there officially, I know he doesn't write the articles on Coinbase Learn, but maybe we can get him to get us in touch with somebody who does. I bet they got somebody over there who's like a librarian who knows it all.
Yeah.
So that's a good place for those questions too.
Let's rapid fire a couple of these because we just got a bunch.
Yeah, I see Scott's question too on YouTube, so we can get that next. Go ahead, Alex.
Okay. How many different cryptos will survive, do you think? Barely any of them.
Yeah, well, in 5 years, we'll have more than ever. And my prediction is that most of them will not be monetary. Most of them will be non-fungible tokens and other things that you can't buy like stocks.
One great way that you can compare it is honestly the world of video games. Like if you were to sit, and I would encourage you, even if you were like a diehard gamer, if you were to sit down and try to name how many big popular video games there are, like see how many you can come up with. and then know that just in the Steam store, over 25,000 new games launch every single year. And almost none of them go anywhere. They don't get any players. They just shut down and close. Crypto is basically the same way. Like at the height of the meme coin season, we were minting 500,000 new cryptocurrencies every single day. And like a dozen of them are noteworthy enough to even really be worth paying heavy attention to. So it's very similar. They're just like, I mean, they're startup companies. All these things are startup companies. 95% of startups fail.
Yeah, and a lot of it will be infrastructure stuff. Like your ID will be on chain, your vote will be on chain. The resources we manage, many of them already are on. FedEx is already on chain, man. You know what I mean? Like people are already on chain.
I talk all the time about a buddy of mine who works for UPS and has been interested in blockchain through UPS for a long time because of just the ability to generate unique tracking numbers that they have more security will not be replicated and not accidentally duplicated. So they use like a mining-like system to come up with those, which is really interesting. Question about the Ledger Flex. Is the Flex the name of a new wallet that they have?
That sounds correct. Yeah, the Flex. It's another touchscreen device. It's after the Stacks. After the Stacks, the Flex is like a same kind of thing. You know, they got to make money somehow. Yeah, just like Apple, they got to make new devices.
No, and listen, I'm excited for like a crypto-friendly hardware to come out and grow and become a thing. And we've got to get through the bad products before we get to the good ones. So in general, Ledger makes good stuff. I'm excited to see what they come up with. Is it Cardano versus Ethereum, or can they coexist? I would
Who's
say,
going to tell him?
First of all, they definitely can coexist. Without picking on Cardano, I will say that they can coexist the exact same way that T-Mobile and Verizon both coexist.
More like Cricket and Verizon coexist, or
more like Jitterbug and Verizon can coexist.
What's a phone that serves like only the Dominican Republic? And that's Cardano in my analogy. I'm so sorry, Charles.
No, it's fine. Just think about it. Think about it this way. Like ideally, we have multiple ecosystems that compete with each other to be better for users, and some people use one and some people use another, or more likely than not, as it relates to blockchain, lots of people will use both and probably not realize it. There's a trend in Web3 that's kind of picking up right now called hide the wires. I'm really into it. It basically is just kind of the idea of abstraction.
I like that.
Smart to buy Bitcoin in a bear market? I mean, yeah, hell yeah.
Is it smart to breathe today? I think it's smart to buy Bitcoin would be the statement. It's smart to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, and I really do feel strongly. There's another thing, Evan, I didn't mention, but we just did it accidentally. I would honestly encourage people to consider the acquisition of Bitcoin as a purchase and not as an investment. Like historically, it's a good investment.
You're not buying it to trade it.
I think that if too many people like look at it for the first time and they're like, oh, this is just an investment. Like if you were to go buy some gold bars, you would talk about it like buying gold. I'm buying, what am I doing? I'm buying some gold.
J-Pill says instead of 401ks, companies can hold Bitcoin that you get a percentage of. And I think that would be smart for companies and smart for employees. Like absolutely.
Yeah. I encourage you to think about all of the applications of this technology outside of investments, just because investing often puts people who are not comfortable with the idea of investing or the different kinds of investing, puts you in the wrong headspace. Like there's a big difference between like calmly investing a little bit of money into the S&P 500 in an index fund every month versus investing in brand new cryptocurrencies, which is called venture style investing. You're buying a pre-product, pre-revenue company that's run by an anonymous guy on Twitter who just started it for fun. Huge risk.
Here's a question I'd like to touch if we can, because I'm answering some in the comments, but Mandy asked, is there a disadvantage to staking your crypto? And I would say staking is something, if you don't know, that is like putting your crypto in a savings account. And just like a savings account, there are terms and conditions that come with it. They're coded by this smart contract.
Can I interrupt you just to say,
of course,
we are, just because I know we have more technically minded people who watch and love to correct me. We are very aware that there's a lot that goes on in the back end when you stake. We know it's not literally just running a savings account, but for the purpose of explanation on the front end,
like run with us.
Someone knew that's why this kind of thing gets explained this way.
For all intents and purposes, it functions like a savings account. But what you need to be aware of are sometimes there are lockup periods. that are mandated by the smart contract, where if it's like the bull run and you've got your ETH sitting there and you're like, oh, I plan to sell this ETH when it goes higher, but maybe in the meantime, I'll stake it. Well, you got to be careful because there might be a lockup period of 7 days or 14 days or 30 days or 45 days or 60 days. And you will be able to find this out up front. You should look through the documents on the place you plan to stake it. Just like there are a million banks in America, there are a lot of staking service providers online. You can research them by just doing a Google search, and we can help you find one too. But they'll have terms and conditions. They'll have many different pools that are like different types of accounts that you can stake with. Some of them will have higher percentage yields. You'll earn more for staking with them. Some of them will require you to lock your money up for longer. And then there are also lending protocols. There are many other kinds of protocols, but lending is another popular one, which is essentially like staking in the sense that it's a savings account. You park your money there, it earns you interest while people you do other stuff with it. I think lending is often easier than staking when it's volatile and you don't want to lock up your money for a long time. Usually there are less lockups or they are shorter when you're lending versus when you're staking. But I don't like to do it too much when it's when I might need to sell it tomorrow kind of thing.
Let me hit just a couple of quick ones, and then I do have to, we got to wind it down here. Someone was asking just about cold storage. Do you use cold wallets during the bull run? I do, just because I feel more secure with them, and at this point me using a cold wallet is basically, it's only slightly slower and more cumbersome than me using Phantom. Just because it's right here, plug it in, open the interface. If I need to send something out, I'll send it out. I really try to avoid that just because I don't want to pay transaction fees unnecessarily. But yeah, cold wallets, simply put, the most secure way that you can store crypto. Nothing is 100% perfect, but it's the best. And they are a lot more intimidating and daunting than they actually are. Like, people who, for some reason, think that scaring you is the best way to get you to pay attention to them will tell you that using cold wallets is really intimidating and scary, and you got to be so careful, and it's all gonna, no, it's not that terrifying. So yes, 100% I use cold storage every single day. Where does DeFi fit into this? DeFi is a part of the crypto industry. It stands
all those things we just talked about. Yeah,
stands for decentralized finance, and really, in short, it's just kind of the idea of using crypto for money systems. Just like Evan always says, crypto and blockchain can do a lot more than just be money. But when we use them for money stuff, you're using DeFi. That's a very slimmed down definition of it. Blockchain versus ecosystem. What's the difference? The blockchain is the layer. It's like the underpinning. It's the piece that you can build an ecosystem on top of, but they often get sort of used in conversation to mean the same thing. So you might hear someone describe the Ethereum ecosystem or the Polygon ecosystem or the Base ecosystem. When they say that, they're really just talking about all of the other stuff that gets built on that blockchain.
Alex, I got a rapid fire question here. Which cold wallet? And I also want to shout out, I verified this is Crypto Chick. Crypto Chick is the #1 gifter right now. She's a friend of the show, and she's a very helpful educator who will take a lot of time out of her life to answer questions, especially oriented at newcomers to our space. So give her a follow and be sure to join her when she's live, and don't hesitate to ask. There's never any such thing as a stupid question, but she's a great educator. So thank you for being here and for supporting the show. Which cold wallet is best? The answer is largely that it depends on you. Every cold wallet has a slightly different interface, and people will argue about this one or that one's more secure, but for the most part, all the major cold wallets, such as Get Your Pen, Ledger, Trezor, Arculus, Tangem, SafePal,
although
Ellipal
had a little bit of a boo-boo.
Who did?
Tangem.
Okay, well, strike that. We got to investigate. But largely speaking, these companies don't have access to your private key. All the devices are secure. It matters, though, how well you use them. The best cold wallet is one you feel comfortable using consistently and well. And there are great reviews online. If you just Google YouTube, Ledger tutorial, you'll find 50. And you can ask us. I use a Nano X. It's a Ledger device. Alex uses a Trezor. You use a Model T, right? And they hold a lot of different tokens.
Trezor Model T, my favorite wallet.
And if you got a ton of tokens and you're like, wow, I don't feel comfortable just putting them in one place, you can get multiple cold storage devices. And if something happens, like your ledger gets blown up, because you were a smart investor and you backed up your private key, you can use any device to restore that wallet. The wallet, remember, your crypto isn't physical. It doesn't live on that device. The device is a secure way to store your key, which you use to access your crypto, and which you can have in your head, which you can have written down somewhere. You can secure it a variety of ways, and you should. What you got?
So let me just address the Tangem thing. So I'll put the
what happened?
They had a scare. They had a potential vulnerability that was identified, but they managed to identify it, secure it, wrap it up, and they published their report. Okay, Gabriel, you got to calm down, dude. No, don't. We're not doing this scaring people, yelling about things that you don't understand. Okay, do me a favor.
Keep the explanation and I'll monitor it.
So Tangem had a potential vulnerability. They patched it, and they were able to confirm that no private keys were compromised, no one lost any money, and no accounts were accessed that should not have been accessed. So the issue is that, here, I'll just read this directly from Tangem. The issue was when activating a wallet with a seed phrase by generating or importing one, the private key was mistakenly logged in the mobile app's logs. These logs could have been later accessed during interactions with the support team. So basically, who could have potentially been affected? Anyone who was activating a wallet using a seed phrase or had contacted who had also contacted the support team through the app within 7 days of that activation. Only a combination of these two scenarios actually happened to create the vulnerability. And then they were able to show that none of them had been exploited. Basically, the support team would have had to steal from you. That was the thing. They weren't like leaked out to everybody. The support team would have had access within that week period to recently reactivated or recently re-updated, re-imported cold wallets. But they have since patched it. And here is the report notes. You
throwing them in Discord?
Yes.
Well, and that might be a good time to say, my friends, it's about time to do final thoughts. It's almost 8:30 my time, 9:30 his time. I got to go to therapy. He's got to probably take a bunch of dogs on a walk and give that Snuggie back to Christina. So tell us what your final thought is. If we didn't get to your question, don't despair. We're going to be back tonight at 7 p.m. with DeFi Daddy to do some altcoin research. We're going to be back tomorrow to answer your crypto questions at 7 a.m. Central. We are here every Monday through Thursday at 7 a.m. Central to share helpful news, commentary, answer your crypto questions. And in the meantime, you can find us in the Discord at discord.gg/riseup. It's totally free. It's the hub for all of our classes, for our coaching, for digital products like Alex's free, how to do your own research guide. It's got the links to our YouTube channel where you can watch us on your TV. And so much more. All that's missing, my friends, is you. So Alex, what's your final thought? Good joke, question, suggestion, word of wisdom. Round Trip Crypto says, my final thought is the Hexicans will win. Rest in peace, Richard Hart, wherever you may be. What's your final thought, man?
Every time I hear the word hex, that sound automatically plays in my head.
Yeah, also, Richard Hart, that's your soundtrack.
God, anyway. No, just as always, thanks to everyone for being here, for making the show what it is. We'll be back, like Evan said, later tonight, and then I might take tomorrow off. We'll see. I'm not 100%.
Yeah, because what's tomorrow, Alex?
Tomorrow I'm getting older.
Tomorrow is Alex's birthday, baby.
Yeah. I'm getting older tomorrow.
You are getting older tomorrow, and we will celebrate you on the show, whether you are here or not. But certainly everybody is joining me in wishing you a happy early birthday, man.
Thank you.
And that's my final thought, is to say, Alex, I love you. I can't believe you're a little bit older than me. You're my brother from another mother, the same guy in a different font. And so if I don't get to tell you tomorrow, I really do think that aside from our great audience, you are what's he say?
Eli says, "What's old? 28." Thank you. Well, let's go with that.
Hey,
yes, I'm turning 28.
Turning 28 for the sixth time, probably.
It literally
Which is
the
not so
sixth-
bad.
yes. I,
You know,
no,
the skin's looking good.
I will be 34.
Yeah. 34. He's getting his life together just in time for his
Just enough.
body to fall apart. Thank you very much. So if you're not here, I'll have soundboard Alex with
This
me,
is a gross misrepresentation of the facts.
and we will see all of you a little bit later tonight. So thank you again, my friends. Until then, be safe, stay well, and of course,